Yeah, I know it kind of sounds like some people who may be listening, it may sound like we're un-American, like we're commies or something, but that's not true. Our government are commies. They're Bolsheviks. And you don't need to look any further than the Communist Manifesto. You don't need to look any further than the policies implemented the last 10 years, the last 30 years, the last 100 years. And as I said, if it looks like a Zionist and it smells like a Zionist, it is a central banker. And central banks have caused every boom, every bust. They fund both sides of every war. And so we're not un-American. And I say God bless Americans. And we're live. All right, welcome to Against the Wall here at the UCY Radio Media Empire Outlet Network. This is UCY.TV, UCY.TV Media Network. We're more than just a radio station, guys. Spread the word, man. Spread the word about UCY, because otherwise, you know, really, it's just, it seems almost not worth to keep doing if we're just going to keep doing this for a few people. Now, I realize that most of the people that listen to this network do it privately, so we're not going to go there. Now, I think I may have a guest today. Randy's, my buddy Randy, you guys all know him from the Medical Conspiracy Show that used to be on Oracle. Was it Oracle? Or I know that they were on Orion. Oh, I've had him on my show on Oracle, Dr. Carpenter. Give me a few minutes here, and I will add Randy. Skype is really messed up, guys. So F a Skype and F a Microsoft, Bill Gates, piece of crap, messing with everything. So I guess I did, luckily I did get Skype turned on. I wasn't supposed to be here today. My wife and I were supposed to go somewhere this weekend, but we didn't. So luckily I'm here because I would have been dead ass air had I not. But anyways, welcome to the show. This is Against the Wall. Look, yeah, this today, what is today, the 17th? Today's the 17th of August, 2014. It's early in the morning. Early in the morning. Hopefully I'll be able to play a few tunes for you. I had to get this other computer set up because I still have been slacking and haven't reinstalled Windows on this other, on my main computer. So I'm running Linux, and I'm using a laptop because it's the only way I can. It's the only way I can actually do this and still be able to do things the way I like to. Quite a few things, I guess, are going on. Nothing. I'm just so not into it anymore. It's nothing important. You know what I mean? Nothing's changes. Not that I think anything would change, but you know, the only thing that I see is I just keep seeing people stabbing each other in the back, hustling, trying to get up the next rung so they can get a little more access, you know. And then you got the scumbags that are just trying to be the new media, which is, to me, is ridiculous, because really what they're trying to be is just a new marketing scam. This entire, from Alex Jones on down, this is just one giant MLM, multi-level marketing scam, and you are most of these people's frickin' employment. You are most of these people's source of income. I hope you like that. You know, you're fucked, and we're in the middle of a repression. Like how I call it, a repression. It's not a depression. Well, maybe it is. I call it a repression because we're repressed. It's an oppression. It's a suppression. And don't forget about the struggle, man. The struggle for humanity, the struggle for dignity, Fuck the struggle for 9/11 truth, and fuck all those Sandy hoaxers. There's a real struggle, and that's for human dignity. That's for the right for dignity. And you got all these idiots like James Fetzer running around trying to muddy the water, make every one of us look like idiots. And does a fairly fair job at it, in my opinion. There we go. This is what, man, this bullshit. Hey, Randy Simmons, JJink? Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, man, glad to be here.
Trying to just get all man, fuck Skype. Pardon my language, pardon my French. I know there's people out there listening that don't like swearing, but, you know, they're just making it so that unless you're with one of these fucking goddamn mainstream media networks or Alex goddamn FBI, CIA piece of shit Jones, you can't do a show.
Oh, boy.
I mean, so I can't play music. I can't play freaking clips because everything just sounds horrible.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We had the same issue when we did the last few incarnations of Medical Conspiracy. We had a little toy that I would use to do sound clips and stuff. All of a sudden, it just stopped working. Wouldn't do anything.
Well, I'm just irritated. I haven't. What I really should have done before now is reloaded Windows onto my main machine because I have it all set up. I have so that I can play clips and everything from this machine into my mixer, back into this machine into Skype. So, and I've always had it sounding great, but really trying to play clips into my laptop I guess it's just not freaking working.
And I got a static issue happening here too. Am I too loud or too quiet?
No, you sound perfect.
Okay, because I can go up or down. Okay.
No, you sound great. Okay, so introducing Randy Simmons. Those of you who've been listening to my show since the start will recognize Randy. We used to call him Dog Boy.
Yeah.
Right, Dog Boy?
Barney used to call him Dog Boy.
Dog Boy.
Dog Boy, yeah.
So I guess a lot of things have happened in
Dr.
Carpenter's world and with you and your wife. And, I thought I'd give you a chance. I understand that Dr. Carpenter is a little leery, and I would be too. Like I said to you earlier, I've never had an entity try to destroy me. I've never had anything, so I've always been able to just destroy myself really quickly and easily. You know what I'm saying, Randy? But I've never had an outside entity, a third party, other than, main, bullcrap, family or friends bullcrap. I've never had a third party try to destroy me.
Yeah, and it's really kind of weird that at first, I'm talking years ago. At first, there was the occasional thought in my head that, hey, we're really making a bigger deal out of this than it is. There's no way we could be that. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for. That much of a entity of interest,
right?
To put that much attention on us. But then, of course, I actually, Against the Wall was a friend of the Medical Conspiracy show from the beginning, because we got through you, we made contact, or I did, with Barbara, and
Barbara Hartwell.
Barbara Hartwell, right. She had come on your show, and Dr. Carpenter heard her when we were actually moving.
Another whistleblower.
Yeah, we were moving from one office location to a downgrade, smaller office that we'd set up because the decline was already happening, starting to happen 2 or 3 years ago. And she couldn't believe some of the things that Barbara was saying, so we sent some messages and tried to get.
Well, I'm sure they had a lot in common. So just so that people understand, I mean, there are quite a few people that are listening to the show right now that know, but Dr. Carpenter is actually, just to put this in context, she's a defense
Dr. Carpenter, right?
Dr. Carpenter was years ago, before most of us even knew what this was, what this movement or the struggle was
was a defense industry whistleblower. And then later on, it looks like as though the establishment decided that they weren't done trying to destroy her and her reputation. So, that's a pretty simplistic explanation, but I just thought people should know that this isn't just an incident that just came up. This is a woman who blew the whistle on the defense industry and who said some things that people did not like and put things out there. LaysMed Inc. was the company that she started.
And her radio show was really her radio show was an
I love Dr. Carpenter, and if she's listening or if she hears the archive, Dr. C, you're always welcome on Against the Wall, and I will always do anything I can to help in the background.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. She would have been with us this morning, but there was a little misunderstanding, and I think she had the idea that we were going to pre-record in advance. And but no, when I first met her, it was a year or more before I had any idea about the existence of LaysMed. I had met Wendy. We were both out of bad marriages. We were both, had some time under our belts after a bad marriage. We met online, and we dated for, say a year to a year and a half before we got married, and we were married for almost 6 months before I knew about the existence of LaysMed, and it was mainly because what had started really small and had been going on for a few years suddenly got busier, and she was needing more help in the office, and a point came at which I needed a job, so I went to work and helped her out in the office. The next thing I know, I'm looking at this kind of small website that she had that was one of those GeoCities, cookie cutter type websites.
Right.
And we were talking, just brainstorming, just during dead moments of the day after day about things that she'd like to see happen to the website. And I got to thinking, well, some of this sounds a little over my head, but I sure would like to learn. So she gave me a chance to take some really basic courses in HTML, CSS, and some basic graphic, design. And so we started little by little upgrading her website and upgrading her logo and trying to get a web presence for her. And this went on for years that I was helping out with her website and just basically putting up changes as they came about, as she wanted them made, as she wanted this change made. We'd go ahead and do it. And around 2009 to 2010, this...
about when I think that's about when I met you guys in the neighborhood, maybe shortly thereafter.
Yeah, what I was leading up to was this is the kind of the straw on the camel's back that made her decide she wanted to get a radio show. I want to say it didn't really start until sometime in 2009. A little pressure from local politicians in the state of Arkansas, where she was, where we were all living at the time, and Dr. Carpenter did some research and discovered that Oklahoma was one of the original states with what they call a safe harbor law for alternative practitioners and holistic healers. And a lot of that had to do with the Native American community in Oklahoma, but still it's a safe harbor law. So her decision was, we're going to move LaysMed to Oklahoma. And so at 3 households, we just up and moved like a very short notice. We didn't have much time. But once we had gotten into Oklahoma, this movement of detractors just kind of appeared on the scene. One of the things that I always did during the years that I was helping out with the website was every week or so I'd go to Google and just do a random search. Just run either her name or run the name LaysMed Inc. in the Google search and see what comes up, just so I can see what's going on the internet. How's this page doing? Well, to our surprise, there was this anti-LaysMed page that had just appeared out of nowhere and was talking about a lawsuit against Dr. Carpenter, and she had no idea there was a lawsuit against her. She hadn't even been served yet. Nobody knew, and the way we discovered it was by this guy's webpage that he had created, and this is the guy that Dr. Carpenter eventually nicknamed Pinocchio. just sort of to designate the liar quality. But the more we looked at it, it became pretty apparent that how would this random guy who, yes, he was the husband of a former patient, and there was this story attached to his website as far as his wife not getting the results that she had wanted, and then there are lots of questions that come up as far as what did she do after the treatment, what did she do before the treatment. I don't have enough medical knowledge to be in the know of every medical detail that happens. All I was the media guy, and then I came in and helped out with the radio show in later years. But
Right.
What they did was here 2 years ago in the summertime, following a lawsuit that was based on lies, where this lady sued her even though she cured her cancer, and they got a hold of a couple of oncologists working for her that would put on paper that her cancer was not killed and it was continuing to get worse. Well, up to that point, all I had known was every few weeks I would get a set of emails in from Dr. Carpenter saying, hey, here are some emails and some letters that we've gotten. Would you put these on our website, on the testimonial page, which didn't exist at first, but eventually so many of them were coming in that there was no way that we weren't going to have a testimonials page. You know, you got this many good comments coming in from all over the world. Let me set up a page on laysmedinc.com just to handle these comments from former patients. Well, and that was my understanding of how it worked. Not until 2009, when this seemingly organized group of people came out, and starting as just nothing more than vicious troll activity. But it got ridiculous. It went beyond the point of troll. This is where Barbara Hartwell and the COINTELPRO discussion kind of came in and started to make a lot more sense to us, because everything that was happening to us, it was the same thing that Barbara was talking about. Just in a different context.
Exactly.
You know?
And Barbara's main thing is, one of her main things was talking about how the state would come in and declare a person unfit and then steal everything, steal all their intellectual property, all their physical property, steal and then have them, essentially committed, a ward of the state, under guardianship is the term. And Dr. C, just so that people understand, LaysMed Inc. Doesn't, as far as medical procedures, there was no surgery or anything involved. She had developed a technique where she could apply a dye to the tumor so that it would stand out, so that she'd be able to see it, and then use lasers to burn.
Yeah, and not just so that she can see it.
So that it would conduct the heat, so that it would kill the tumors without destroying the cells around it, right?
Right. It has to do with the monochromatic frequency of this particular laser has been tweaked to a certain frequency, and that frequency corresponds to a certain color. Well, the only reason I knew about this is from high school art classes when we talked about supplementary colors and complementary colors.
Right.
Well, every color in the rainbow has an exact opposite, and like blue and green. Red and green are opposites.
Right.
If you have a red laser that's monochromatic, the maximum heat absorption is going to be in something that's the exact opposite of red. So this exact color of red light combined with this exact color of green dye creates maximum heat in that area that absorbs it.
Right.
And I wouldn't have come up with that in a million years, but that only because I've been in the circle, so to speak.
Right. And Dr. Carpenter had a basic working knowledge of lasers from her years in the defense industry. Exactly.
And so her knowledge was all about lasers and then what can be done with them. And and because of the good things that I was hearing coming from the all over the internet from a handful of people that I actually met. I wasn't always there at the office, but I did have a chance to meet people that had come in from Europe, from Australia. I met a South African lady once, I think. And, but they were coming from all over the world. So to me, this was huge. This was something that, I've never been a part of anything in my life that I was more proud of.
Right.
And here they are, 2 years after the FDA had come into the clinic based on a lie. Again, everything they did was based on lies. They lied to get their foot in the door. Then once their foot is in the door, then it's like, okay, now let's pick this thing apart. And the raid that happened, and I know I'm jumping all around the place. I'm sorry.
I know. That's fine.
First, 2009, this organized group of detractors comes about on the internet. They start following LaysMed around everywhere they go, not just LaysMed's website. Up to this point, there are lots of alternative cancer blogs all over the internet, and some of them are more popular than others. Well, there were LaysMed patients on those blogs saying good things about Dr. Carpenter. Well, not anymore.
Right.
They Googled and found all the places where the good stuff was being said about Dr. Carpenter. They went in and just, changed it, right?
They can
brought in a group of people.
They can put all the good stuff at the bottom of any search term, so that when you search, and there's if you listen to the radio, any terrestrial radio station for more than 20 minutes, there are many companies out there, internet reputation companies that will for a fee just go out and change all the bad shit about you on the internet, so that a Google search or a search engine search brings up the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And it's all about money.
It's all lies, yeah.
And if you can pay, if you can foot the bill for it, you can make it happen with these PR firms out there. But at this point,
this is before these firms had all started up. So you guys were like at the forefront of being attacked viciously.
Yeah, and I guess in hindsight, one big mistake I made was engaging these people right openly on the forums. I would not being a real insider.
See red,
not being an insider, it wasn't that big of a deal to me. Since I'm just the website guy and the radio sidekick, I would get in there and argue with the people, and of course there's no way I could ever win because they would always come back 4-on-1, 3-on-1, and do whatever they could. But during this time period is when Dr. Carpenter decided she wanted to start a radio show. So she had commercials that were running on GCN. And, of course, Alex dissed her during his show one time because her commercial was right there in the lead into his show. And he says, well, you don't always know that the cancer's always cured because of good metastasize. And of course,
which is true, but so that's why you have the follow-up visits,
right? Well, and
so here's the thing, Randy, because and here's what I don't get. So nothing's foolproof. Even high-grade THC oil isn't foolproof and isn't 100%. And what I don't get is it's okay to spend $500,000 on cancer treatments and die, but if you go and spend like $5,000 or $6,000 on a treatment and die, now we got to start putting people in jail, and you're an evil, Satanist because you've tried to help people, and occasionally it doesn't take. But I just don't get it, man.
Well, and this, like I said, it was a build-up over a course of a couple of years. It started with trolls on the internet. Then it became obvious at one point that, hey, these trolls are working with the attorney.
Yeah, and let's be clear, Dr. Carpenter's never killed anyone or caused the death of anyone. Period. No. Point blank. End of story. Never caused the death of anyone.
Right, and there are cases out there. The first one really is the one that they used for the lawsuit that happened in Arkansas. Was a lady that had come to her to have her breast cancer killed, and we didn't even, Dr. Carpenter didn't know at the time, but dug it out of her file later after the fact that this lady also had thyroid cancer.
Right.
That she was treating with a different alternative practitioner and did not want that thyroid cancer treated with the laser. Well, the next thing I know, this whole thing has been taken over by the media, and everything. The poor lady eventually passed away because of
the thyroid tumor.
Right. It whatever was being done to that thyroid that Dr. Carpenter had no idea of. It all got blamed on the breast cancer because the way her treatment works is after the cancer is killed, there is a few months afterward where the dead tissue expansion brings some people to have concerns that it's actually growing. It's not growing. It's just expanding.
It's leaving the body.
Right. Have you ever seen a dead body in the woods, or a dead animal in the woods? But before it decomposes, it swells. It gets, and this is essentially what's happening to the dead tissue. But because the medical community wouldn't cooperate with her, they wouldn't remove the dead tissue without removing a huge, clean margin crater of flesh around it,
Right.
And Dr. Carpenter wouldn't accept that. Well, the next thing was these internet trolls began being incorporated into these media attacks, like the local news that ran in Tulsa, the local news that ran in Little Rock, basically to give her a bad name with everybody that had ever been exposed to her or what she did.
Right.
And then in the summer of 2012, this prospective patient, who was not a patient at all, who had been calling LaysMed for off and on a couple of years, posing as the nephew of a breast cancer patient, canceling appointments and rescheduling appointments, and finally, July of 2012, had confirmed an appointment that his aunt was going to come in for treatment. The day came, and the patient arrived. It was not a patient. It was a raid team, an FDA raid team. But 2 years after that, I mean, when they came in and raided the place, they took her lasers, they took her stain, which they call a drug, even though it was food coloring, which you can drink, and saline solution that you can drink. You mix them together just like lime and the coconut. It becomes a drug once you mix it together. That was the running joke for a while, because we had that song for a bumper.
Right.
That lime and the coconut song. But I mean, it's just about as ridiculous. You call the doctor and he says, mix the lime and the coconut and you drink it for the bellyache. Well, okay, if you drank it to cure a bellyache, then it becomes a drug. And that's the mentality that they basically used, along with the lie that she was selling lasers across state lines. She was altering lasers, mislabeling them, adulterating medical devices, and holding them for resale across state lines, every bit of which is a fucking lie. But this was the wording of the 28-page affidavit that the judge signed to give them permission to come in and raid the clinic. So it was based on lies. If what she actually did had been written into the affidavit, and this is why I believe we need to, raid this particular clinic, it wouldn't have been granted, because the things that she was actually doing were legal according to Oklahoma law. The things that they used for the basis of the raid were the lies and embellishments that were thrown in there. Well, now, this was 2 years ago. Since then, I mean, we've hawked things on Craigslist to keep our electricity on. Both of us, Wendy and myself, we were out of work for months. We almost lost our house twice. After 2 years of working different jobs, I'm at home like... the second week of July, I believe. It was just last month. And I'm just relaxing, and all of a sudden, here comes my daughter saying that there's somebody at the door wanting to talk to you. And I go up there, and it's a guy in, looks just like a plainclothes cop with no uniform, just a blue flak vest with, police and reflective letters on it. He probably had a gun somewhere concealed, but I didn't see it. Yeah, and he wasn't being threatening or anything, but he just says, "Are you Randy Simmons?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Is Wendy at home?" I said, "Well, no, she's still at work. She hasn't gotten home yet." And he says, "Okay, well, I just have some papers I need to give you. These are subpoenas. You and Wendy are being requested to witness before the grand jury coming up in August." And he starts explaining this to me and showing me the be here at this time, and this is what you bring, and this is what they're going to ask you about. And it's all about Dr. Carpenter and Lay's Med. But this time they're bringing in Wendy and myself. Why? Me. I'm just the guy that put the website together and then helped out with the radio show. Well, when I went in for questioning last week, it became obvious why they wanted me. They're looking at this website, laysmedinc.com. And they're also looking at the radio show, The Medical Conspiracy, as being a cleverly integrated part of a complex cancer cure scam program that I participated in by putting this website together and assisting with the radio show. And so basically, I'm being questioned
But
like...
they have absolutely no evidence that it's a scam.
Exactly. You know, that's the irony of the whole thing.
Chemotherapy's a scam.
Thank you. That's the irony of the whole thing. You know, Dr. Carpenter from years ago had been putting out there, you know, there's a video called Put Up or Shut Up, in which she says, these are the tests that you can run to prove that you know, if you want to call me a fraud, you run these tests, and if the cancer's still alive, then you, by all means, you come back and call me a fraud. If not, then shut the up. You know what I mean? That was her video, and she lists in that video 4 or 5 different types of verification testing, none of which were ever done for anything having to do with her laser therapy. The testing that was used after her laser therapy to demonize her was basically testing that's done after people have chemo. That doesn't tell you a thing about the effectiveness of what she's done. It doesn't. All it tells you is, well, honestly, and it's over my head, I can't really give a good explanation as far as what it does test for, but it's totally inappropriate testing that was done, and nothing has been done to prove or disprove the idea of fraud, even though they keep using that word fraud as like a premise. You know, it's like they can't make up their minds. They can't prove that it's fraud, but they still want to use the word fraud as a premise for everything that they do and everything that they say. And poor Wendy came out of there in tears. They brought us in separately. I figured they would, you know.
Of course.
But there were 23 people in the grand jury, and I think they do that so they can get. They have 23 people in the grand jury. To get a verdict, they need 12. But I'm still just. I really can't believe that what I did to help out my mother-in-law, and really in essence help out my wife, because when I started working for Lay's Med, it was during. It was shortly after my daughter was born. And all, you know, we were busy. My wife was busy. A lot of things going on. She didn't have as much time on her hands as she did, and so I jumped in and I started helping out. And I got a little bit of training about some things I could do to maybe improve the website a little bit. The whole thing was just to help, and I got grilled. Man, I got grilled about that website like you wouldn't believe. They pulled paragraphs out of it, shoved it in my face, and then they
used you about restless middle finger. No, I'm just kidding.
No, they didn't. They didn't ask about RMS, and well, I don't know. It's probably just as well.
No, I'm just playing with you, brother.
They gave me a case of it. They.
So
I don't know.
They were trying. Anyways, go ahead and continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, it was.
You had to testify.
I mean, I got to admit that, you know, some of these trolls like Bob and Michelle Wolfman, they did give me good preparation for dealing with these people. This attorney that questioned me was one of the most evil-looking people I think I've ever seen. You know, his face, it reminded me of Agent Smith from The Matrix, you know?
Yeah.
just totally expressionless. It's like looking at an insect.
Yeah, just a piece of crap.
Basically, yeah.
Who does what he's told.
Right, and an insect with no conscience that's just, at a moment's notice, just might snap your head off.
Yeah, exactly.
But it amazed me suddenly. I'm being questioned as if I participated in some scheme to lure people in and
to steal money from people. If she was trying, if Dr. Carpenter, I mean, holy crap! I mean, are you freaking kidding me? The amount of what was it? What a treatment average is under $10,000.
Yeah, one session about $1,000 per session, but
yeah, but
right.
So she's. But what's a chemotherapy session cost? What are the radiation pills? What does all this cost? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And 3 or 4 laser treatments as opposed to
right. Oh, that's right. About $3,000.
As opposed to countless, rounds of chemo. And
still probably gonna die.
Yeah, it just
chemotherapy is not good, man.
No, and I made that plain in some of my answers, to them. They were showing me pictures of the pictures on the website of the healing progress. We had one brave lady that wanted to actually have her pictures put on the internet, and Dr. Carpenter agreed to, and said, "I'll tell you what, we're gonna give you like a little paragraph space for each photo, and you give a description of what's going on, and we'll put it out by the side." Well, the pictures weren't pretty because they showed kind of a scabbing progression. And they're on the website right now. You can go to lasmedinc.com and then go to a button that says healing, and there's 2 different healing progressions. And it's not pretty. It scabs up. For a few months, it looks worse maybe than it did, but then it goes back. The scabbing goes away. The healing begins, and the questions that I was getting about this was unreal. They were asking, were these pictures photoshopped? And all I could think was, my God, what a stupid question.
You can't figure that out?
I mean, why would I want to Photoshop a scab?
They would know, Randy. They would know if they were photoshopped.
Unreal.
If they were photoshopped, they would see the layers. I mean, they don't just... You're not talking to some guy from the homeless shelter that just says, "Hey, is this photoshopped?" You're talking about people who have already run that picture, have already processed it, and they know that it's not photoshopped. Or they wouldn't ask you, "Is this photoshopped?" They would say, "Clearly, this photo has been altered. It's photoshopped. This is part of our prosecution." So, anyways, continue. Sorry.
Well, and they made out as if
I get frustrated, bro, because there's nothing I can do. I mean, this is all I can do for you guys is to try. This is it. This is the most that I can do. I don't have any money I could help you with. I don't have any pull or influence. I'm not Alex piece of shit fucking Jones who could actually do something. Who you know what I'm saying? If I had millions of people listening to my show, I could say, "Hey, let's
Adnan Khashoggi backing you up.
Yeah, let's do something. let's try to help this woman. Let's get let's be there for her in her forums. Let's not even talking about frickin' money, but no, if you're not if you're not giving the kahuna money and he's not making money off you, then they won't promote you. So.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Here I was 2 years after the raid. They've already destroyed her lives. They've destroyed Dr. Carpenter's life. She's been moving around from place to place and afraid to stay one place too long for fear of basically getting arrested. She's convinced that they're going to arrest her because
little old lady.
Yeah, well, because of, among other things, because of what we've learned about Brzezinski in Houston, and before he got big, he was actually brought to his knees basically and put in jail. And at some point, a deal was made. Just when the darkest couldn't get any darker, a deal was made, and here he is today. One of the biggest names in Texas.
Yeah.
But
is he cured of cancer?
Well, I don't know. Dr. Carpenter's heard some good things, and she's heard some bad things, and I don't know enough to make any kind of a judgment. But the thing I have heard is
he sold out to the establishment, dude. Otherwise, they'd be after his ass too.
Well, right, and that's what Dr. Carpenter says anyway, because she's gotten quite a few people, if they're in the alternative circles.
If Dr. Carpenter was just ripping people off and selling dick pills and selling, crap that didn't work, she'd be on Alex Jones. She'd be a regular.
Yeah. I mean, she did meet some people who had come from Brzezinski's clinic because, like I said, if you're in the alternative circles, you're looking at these different places. You're aware of
it's the same faces.
You're aware
of the same people, the same faces, and they've got their hands in the same pockets. Ours.
And you're aware of Rife and Gerson and all of these other names, that have gotten pretty big that people know about. They're not, but anyway, because of that, some people had come to her after going to Brzezinski. Well, a couple of them left Brzezinski's clinic because he basically couldn't do anything for them other than chemo. He says you don't have the right kind of cancer that qualifies for the antineoplastin treatment.
Of course.
And so, because he's staffed with AMA-approved oncologists now, and
he's a shill.
But
my
because
opinion.
Yeah,
I got no dog, no pony in this race, so I
you don't have
a piece of crap.
Horse in the race. But and Dr. Carpenter has said the same thing. But I mean,
she has to be a little more careful about what she said. I know,
but because of that, it's ruined her life. She can't do what she's spent the better part of her life, tweaking and perfecting and getting it just right. Now, the political powers come against her, and they question.
And it isn't as though Dr. Carpenter hadn't tried over and over and over and over again to get the establishment, the real, the mainstream medical establishment to look into her findings.
Right.
She had tried over and over again.
Yeah, and the Rockefeller Cancer Center in Arkansas had I don't even know what the amount was, but she said it was an absolute joke. An amount they agreed to give her to basically never touch it again, give it to them lock, stock, and barrel for this, peanut price that they were going to give her. She refused. She says, no.
Because they were just going to mothball it like Stanley Meyer's car and, Tesla's technology. They'll just throw it in the back, throw it in a round filing cabinet.
Right. But what amazed me is they kept on questioning me about, did Dr. Carpenter ever tell you about a case where her therapy didn't work, where her treatment didn't work? And they made out like there were just so many of these cases that went wrong. And for that reason, in my answer, I kept on including positive comments that I had brought with me. And they didn't want to hear that? No, they didn't want to hear it, but I kept on including it. And one question wasn't from the attorney, it was from one of the jurors. And so when I gave them my answer, I started telling them that my frame of reference, up till 2009 when the battle started, my frame of reference was these testimonials and emails and comments that were coming in, several times a week. This is what I saw, and this is what amazed me and made me feel like I was a part of something, really, really big that was gonna be the next big thing. Because you can even right now, you can go to Google and you can search laser cancer therapy, and you can see programs all over the world at different university hospitals all over the world that are using the same principle.
Yeah.
Only thing is they're using a lucrative drug instead of a dye. They're using a lucrative drug that makes that color change happen. Therefore, they can get pharma to foot the bill, and everybody makes lots of money.
Because food coloring is already approved by the FDA. I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't need approval, and it doesn't cost $100,000 for a prescription.
Yeah, but we got people that want to throw her in jail because they say that the moment you mix the food coloring with the saline solution and use it to
color,
to exact a color change for what you're doing, you're using it to treat cancer, and it therefore becomes a drug. And I don't know, that is just such.
But they took her lasers, and now they're using
And now 2 years later.
But they won't. But the treatments aren't going to cost $3,000. They'll cost $300,000.
Yeah. It just, but it blows me away.
Back to your testimony. This is just a grand jury, right?
Yeah, just a grand jury. But it's if the grand jury finds reason,
right, then she can be charged.
Then she can be indicted. And the way they were questioning me, it's as if I could be as well. And
well, here's the deal, though, because the burden of proof is different in a grand jury than it is at a criminal jury trial. So,
right, and at one point, like I said, they were questioning me about all these so-called cases that her treatment didn't work, and I kept bringing up the testimonials page, which we've been accused of making those up. Hell, even one of the FDA agents, I think Jeremy Bain himself, accused us of making those stories up when they were straight out of emails, straight out of the mouths of former patients. Then I started reading what I had printed up from the change.org petitions that we have. If you go to change.org and just type Dr. Carpenter in the search box, they'll come up. She's got 2 different petitions on there, and a total of about 17 or 18 pages of stop this witch hunt, and this is ridiculous. All you people want to do is make money for big pharma, and that wasn't the reason that I was reading. The reason I was
people
reading
in the process.
There were a lot of comments in there from the loved ones of patients that she had treated. Basically, my father would have lost his tongue if not for this lady. She has helped my family. She helped my father. She saved my mother's life. She, one after the other. And I just started reading them.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Randy. Good on you. Again, because the fact that the burden of proof is different during a grand jury, you're allowed, as a witness or as
witness.
Have a lot more. You can use emotion, so I'm glad that you got. I'm glad that you just stuck to your guns, Randy, man. And kept saying, because you were allowed to do that. Now go ahead, man.
Honestly, at first I didn't think it was going to matter because it seemed like everything that I said was just being stepped right around and come back to their point. You know what I mean? But at the point where I started reading these comments, it may have been because I noticed myself as I'm looking around the jury, they're paying attention now. They weren't totally focused at some points during the questioning. But at this point, while I'm reading all this, I've got 32 sets of eyes, fixed on me. And I think the attorney noticed it as well. And they went ahead and took my copy in and marked it with an evidence sticker. So they put it in. Might have just been something it might have just been a showing. It may not do anything. But I'm still just amazed that 2 years after the fact, here we are struggling to keep our bills paid, struggling to keep a house and a roof over our heads, and it's still, they're not done with us. They still want to bring in, and I guess at that point I should throw something else in because I think we all know how this came about. Like I said, 2 years ago, they came into the Lays Med Clinic and raided the place, took everything, took the safe, or made her open the safe, basically, took everything that was out of it, about a month's worth of payroll, and her rent was in there, and things just went south real fast, after that. And 2 years later, after the raid, they come in, still wanting to press more, and now it's not on her, it's on us. I don't know. I feel like I'm talking in circles. I'm sorry.
Well, you're not. No, you're laying it down. Dr. Carpenter is a beautiful woman who's done things for people that are amazing. I've had her on my show many times. She's a lovely person. She likes Van Halen.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Well, she does, though.
But she deserves some support, and it's hard to find support in this alternative, your money's and my money's in your pocket media cycle. UCY is a little bit different, but for the most part, it's hard to find support for these people. And I had Dr. Carpenter and you both on just after the raid, and it's continued. So you're at the grand jury, and how long were you actually in the grand jury in testimony?
I think they had me for about an hour and 45 minutes or so. It seemed like an eternity, but they.
I'm sorry, what happened? I was on the phone, dude. Randy, sorry, the phone rang while you were talking.
No, I think that was my fault too, because I brought up your page and I had the speaker going, so I had to turn the speaker down.
Oh, okay. With the chat room.
Yeah, I just wanted to see.
We've been trying to post the change.org links and things like that in the chat room for people.
Yeah, hey Vince, how you doing, man?
And she didn't have again. Dr. Carpenter doesn't have the money for high-priced lawyers.
Well, and what you were saying about these PR firms, that will go up and clean out all the troll crap off of your message boards and things like that. All that costs money, and it's not like it wasn't. It's not like it wasn't discussed, but all of her money had gone to attorneys that promised her, made promises, and then took basically everything she had and turned on her.
Well, stick to their guns and don't back down. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, at this point, it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. So, you try to be honey in the cogs. Yeah,
I mean, she really wanted to come on the show with you, but I think
we'll do something this week. We'll try to set up some and do some pre-recorded.
Yeah, because even the last few months of the medical conspiracy, when before Orion Talk Radio shut down, that's the way she was doing the show, simply out of safety. She didn't feel safe going live on a Skype signal and broadcasting it. She wanted to have it at least delayed by a few hours or a day,
right?
So it wasn't running live. But then after Orion went down, we did a few weekly podcasts that Talk Superstation up in New York ran on Saturdays.
And we can do that. That's one thing I can do for you. We're set up here at UCY to do pre-recorded podcasts, and I'm friends with the administration here, and I'm friends with the office personnel and the owners. So. And a lot of our hosts here do pre-record their shows, and then.
Hey, Saul, how you doing, buddy? I see him
Our
out there.
good friend Walter Salvanur also does a show.
I was trying to think of your first name. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, I'm sure we got all kinds of logical fallacies going on with this line of questioning.
Well,
I think of Salvanur, I think of logic, I think of the trivium and all that.
Yeah, so do I. Saul's a great guy. Listen, when are you going? First of all, when what they have 2 weeks or so to either indict or not?
Well, and that's a good question. That's a real good question, because that ties in with what I started to say, and I think I got sidetracked at some point. 2 years ago was the raid. About 3 months after the raid, they came in and they subpoenaed Dr. Carpenter to testify in front of the grand jury. This has been over a year and a half ago. She went in, I think, on 2 different days and gave testimony, and not a word did we hear over an entire.
It's 90 days, so this is why there's a new grand jury, because they.
Yeah. Well, over a year and a half went by, and we didn't hear a word. During this time, Dr. Carpenter leaves Oklahoma, and I never did know exactly where she went.
Well, here's the deal in a grand jury. Cases aren't dismissed with prejudice. They're so they can always be brought up again.
Right, and from what I read, I think because the charge of this case, or the suspicion of this case that's trying to prove whatever, is fraud and B, wire fraud, because of the allegation that she was selling adulterated devices across state lines, which is the total fucking lie, like I've said, many times.
Right.
But a year and a half went by that we didn't hear anything about this. Dr. Carpenter has left the state, and last June, just a couple of months ago, she came and stayed with us for a few weeks at our house in Oklahoma.
Right.
Well, what I started talking about when I brought up Barbara and I brought up the gang stalking, and I don't think I actually got to, but I have on other shows about our little COINTELPRO neighborhood.
There are classic signs of gang stalking in Dr. Carpenter's case.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the internet trolls and the bullies.
Because we've been talking about it for years, but when the internet troll thing hit its peak, it went beyond the internet troll, this head troll named Michelle.
Until they start going to your property and things like that.
That's what I was about to say.
You look at the guy that, now his name slips my mind. The Anthrax. What was his last name? Bert? Gosh, forgive me for not remembering the name, but the biochemist or whatever, the person that was accused of stealing, of releasing never proven, but accused of releasing the anthrax after September 11th. He was gang stalked, and they drove him nuts. They drove him to the point where he killed himself.
Yeah, and see, that was.
And they'll do things like make you think that you're going crazy, like you left your car in neutral and it rolled down the back of your driveway in the middle of the night, or they'll come to your house and they'll make it look as though somebody broke in, or they'll take your garbage and they'll empty it out in your backyard on you. They do these kind of things so that you think you're, one, being stalked, which you are, and two, so that you'll think you're hearing voices in your head, so that so that they can have you committed, so that they can destroy you. These are all classic gang stalking techniques.
Like that movie, A Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
And all of this stuff was the stuff of fiction and the stuff of wild conspiracy stories and everything until
but it doesn't matter, Andy, because
it started happening.
The only thing that matters is because none of this is in a court of law yet. This is all just, they can do anything they want because it's not official.
Well, and when
there's no double jeopardy. There's no burden of proof.
What I started to say, though, is a few years ago when this started happening, and when Michelle Wolven, the head troll, was in her peak, it was one day that we were arguing back and forth on one of these discussion boards. She threw in a comment at one point that, gee, Randy, there sure is a lot of yelling coming from your garage. You need to tell your kids to not yell so much. What that was a signal. She was giving me a signal that, hey, I have your next door neighbor listening to you now and giving me reports. And that's exactly what she was doing. How she did it, I have no idea. But she made 3 friends on our block by just making blind phone calls. And I'm still convinced there has to have been some money promised somewhere. But, okay, a year and a half has gone by.
Bruce Ivins, by the way, sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, a year and a half has gone by, no word in response to the grand jury testimony of Dr. Carpenter from a year and a half ago. We figured, okay, well, they've ruined our lives. What else is there? We're having to work, red state wage jobs here, barely keeping our roofs over our heads. And then they want to bring us in for questioning again. Not again. Basically, they want to question the people closest to her. But the reason I think that this happened is because in June, when she came down to visit us, there was one day that she and Wendy had gone, I forget where, they went somewhere together, and they came back. They had some stuff in the car. They wanted a little help unloading, so I went out and helped them unload, and I noticed this COINTEL neighbor 2 houses down. We don't speak to each other. 2 years. Imagine living in a neighborhood where you just absolutely cannot stand and detest and hate your neighbors. It's I've never dreamed I'd ever live in a situation like this. One of my next door. Side of her. who came over 3 years ago because we said something on our Facebook page he didn't like. He was trying to start a fight so he could, and he brought a witness. The whole idea being they get me to start a fight. They've got, some more dirt on me that they can use against me. Well, he was out in his driveway talking on his cell phone, and Dr. C was getting out of the car, and all I could think to myself is, oh my God, I know what's happening right now, because he was turned our direction. He's on the phone with somebody.
Not me, because I would have ran over there and stuffed that phone right down his throat.
Well, I know damn well that's what he was doing. He was making a phone call, letting somebody know that guess who I see right now in the Simmons driveway.
The subject is here.
And it was, I want to say less than a couple of weeks later, Bain was right here at the door handing me a subpoena. Of course, by then she was gone again.
Right.
But it still didn't matter. The fact that she was spotted here by one of the Stasi agents.
Man,
crazy! It's just totally crazy.
At this point, I'm speechless. I'm just kind of speechless, man. You know what I'm saying? And here's this person who's never wanted. I mean, everybody.
Sure, she wanted to make a living.
She's a person who saw things that were wrong 20 years ago, and she came out at the detriment of her entire life and her career, and exposed. And nobody has the respect for her, even in this alternative world, to back her play. Just a couple of guys, a douchebag from upstate New York with a tiny little, stupid little radio station, is all the support that Dr. Carpenter can get.
Yeah, it's...
well, because she's being gang stalked, and because they're employing all these different techniques that they use, these search engine techniques. They're, they've essentially destroyed her life. They've reduced her to almost panhandling.
Mm-hmm. I mean, seriously, and
it breaks my heart. Man.
That's what really blew my mind at the onset was, after all they've done, what is left? And the only thing that even Wendy can figure, the only thing that's left is a body in a cell.
Yeah, this is revenge. This is revenge, man. They couldn't get her 20 years ago. That's my opinion. I mean, and I'm sure that Barbara...
I don't disagree.
Because they wouldn't go all this way for a couple of cancer treatments. This is something that goes back further, and I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I can't dismiss any link between... Of course, I don't know I don't know as much about, what happened back in those days. Well,
she's kind of tight-lipped about it.
Yeah, true. Because talking about tight-lipped, so many of the people, the detractors, they said, oh, you just married Wendy because you wanted money and all that. They don't even realize that I was married to her for 7 or 8 months before I even knew that LaysMed existed. The only thing I knew is that when I first met her, her mom and I didn't really get along that well. And I had made the mistake of calling her by her first name one time, and not knowing anything, basically being told that, no, she wants to be addressed as Dr. Carpenter. I said, okay. I started calling her Dr. Carpenter. And I knew that she was a PhD. I knew that she had worked in the defense industry, but that was basically...
Military defense industry.
Yeah, and I didn't have any idea of anything else that she was doing until, like I said, until months after Wendy and I were already married. But...
So Wendy had to testify against her mother.
Yeah.
Which is illegal. You can't be made. Made. Of course, this is a grand jury. The rules are a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean,
but she always could, I believe, plead the fifth.
Plead the fifth. You do have the right to plead the fifth. You also have the right to retain an attorney when you go in. But again, that's the right to spend lots of money. Right, because there are no public defenders in a situation like that.
No. And so Wendy went in and testified. How many people were subpoenaed during this last round at the grand jury, which was last week, you said, or 2 weeks ago?
No, it was August 11th.
So they got 90 days. They only have 90 days from the grand jury to either indict you or to dismiss.
Well, they just brought in Wendy and myself.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm trying to figure this out. It's just not making any sense.
Yeah.
What did they? Do you know what charges?
Well, like I said, they're trying to get her on wire fraud.
On wire fraud and the state,
and then just a general fraud. General, yeah, the wire fraud.
Last time.
Regular.
That's part of it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, what I saw was two different. Hang on. Actually, I've got it on a piece of paper here somewhere. Two different suspicion of two different charges, and one is okay. Here we go. 18 U.S.C. Section 1343, wire fraud. 21 U.S.C. Section 331, causing a drug to be misbranded and a medical device to be adulterated. Section 21 U.S.C. Section 331 again, failing to register a drug manufacturing establishment.
Huh.
A drug manufacturing establishment. Where she mixed? Yeah, where she mixed food coloring with salt water.
Yeah, food coloring and salt water. Essentially. Oh man. Well, I'll try to get. I'm just really busy, and but we'll try to get at least do like an hour or something together at some point during this week.
Yeah, definitely.
I just wanted to know that.
She wants to.
It's hard. I just feel helpless, and this is why I felt helpless trying to help Donna Taylor. She, her son with the Columbine. I just that's just one of the reasons that I'm so discouraged, or I'm so disillusioned by this whole movement of people trying to exploit each other just for a little bit of ratings. Everybody wants to get certain guests on, but then after the show's over, that's just it. That's all.
Backbiting.
Yeah, I had someone on, I got that little bit, I've got that little feather in my cap, and now screw you. I'm moving on to the next person that I can exploit so that I can gain a little bit more access into this world, which is just making me ill, dude.
Yeah, and I feel helpless myself because it's. The situation isn't really that good here. I want to say within the last 4 months, both of us have changed jobs. Both Wendy and myself have changed jobs. I had to. I lost my job because it has nothing to do with this, but I still think it was pretty shitty. I was working at a call center and I got bronchitis that was going around in my work area. I missed 5 days of work, and I couldn't get FMLA coverage for bronchitis that I got on the job. And so because I couldn't get FMLA coverage, I had to take what they call attendance points. They dock you so many points for every day that you miss. And you hit a certain point, you're gone.
And you're fired.
So that's how I lost that job. But anyway, I'm working a job now. I'm about 2 months into it, $2 an hour downgrade from where I was working. And I'm just trying to hang on. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to hang on and keep an income. Wendy's not working at the same place either. She started a new job about a month and a half ago. And, things are not that stable. And then out of that, here comes something else for you. We're going to bring you in and question you as a criminal.
Now, was Dr. Carpenter subpoenaed?
No, not that I know of. I heard
was this a federal courthouse, federal grand jury?
Yeah.
Okay,
it was,
all right.
It was at the federal building in Tulsa.
The district.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But I know 2 years or so ago we did this radio soap opera where we were basically making.
I remember
making fun. We were trying to make fun of something that really wasn't a laughing matter, but basically trying to put the joke on them, making fun of the court system in the way that they operated, and making fun of this attorney that was out to bring LazyMed down, this guy by the name of Will Bond out of Little Rock. And I did have thoughts of that running through my head while I was in the grand jury being questioned, but this guy that led the questioning in this particular instance, he just scared me.
Well, here's the deal, Randy. And,
never met a scary
Dr.
type like this.
They can't do anything. This was just another. They just took another swing. They're just trying to get her to ruin herself financially, but they can't do anything. They won't be able to indict her. Just take a deep breath.
That's what I'm trying to do.
This is a game that they play. That, like, for instance, I just got a letter from an attorney saying that people that I helped for a couple of years, took into my home, made part of my family, are trying to sue me now.
What?
But really, they're suing me. But really, what this letter from the attorney, this is what I'm telling you: attorneys and courts don't send you courtesy letters. They tell you when you're going to be in court. So if they're anything shy of an indictment in a court date, they're just trying to piss you off. They use fear as part of their tactic. Or, like, for instance, this lawyer sends me a letter saying that he's been retained to sue me. Will I send him my insurance company's information? Well, no. And it's a fishing expedition, and it's a fear thing, hoping that my wife would have been the one that opened that letter and then called them up and said, "Oh my God," blah, blah, blah. Because then, and here's the deal with this grand jury. It's the same thing, Randy. And Dr. Carpenter is going to be all right. She's not going to be indicted. Now, I say that now, tongue in cheek, because it's my opinion that if she were going to be indicted, they'd have indicted her. They would have indicted her before.
Me too. Exactly. It's
just because they were like, you know how it is, man. It's just they're just trying to give her a shot in the gut while she's down.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what I thought.
Make sure that she doesn't try to start again.
Yeah, because if that was my thought, if they wanted her that badly, if they wanted to bring her in and arrest her, they had all the chance in the world a year and a half ago to do that. Why didn't they? Why all of a sudden they calling us back in, Wendy and myself? And the only thing I can figure, it's got to be
because they want you to be scared, and they want her to be scared, and they don't want her to ever pick up another laser or another dye or any more saline solution.
Well, and I know because
they've already stole her technology.
And I know because of the line of their questioning that they threw at me Monday, they were trying to find out if she was living at our house. Because, they threw it at me from three different angles. Basically, I know there's no way that it didn't happen because of this reason, because of that neighbor down the road spotting her in the driveway. Right. And like I said, he had his cell phone up to his ear, and he was facing right directly towards us. Couldn't hear what he was saying because it was, a couple of yards.
Well, you're a better man than me, Randy, because I would have already ruined it for everybody. I would have. I'm not equipped like that, man. I'd have gone over and drop kicked that dude in his chest, and then took a dump on his forehead, and I would have made all the wrong moves.
I've thought about,
which is what they're hoping you would do. So I'm so glad to hear that you stuck to your guns. You're allowed to say things, and they're not allowed to object to certain things at grand juries that they could have. Like, they would have never let you start reading off good comments from a forum at a jury trial, in a criminal jury trial. So I'm glad those are some of the good things that you did, and I think that you could. I know that it won't ease your mind, because who the hell am I? Just a guy who's been to court 7,000 times, been arrested 75 or 80 times in his life. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe that they can really do anything to her other than try to scare her and try to just, kick the corpse, basically. They've already destroyed her. And they didn't have to take her to court, and they didn't have to put her in jail. Yeah,
and I really don't know. I wonder.
I wish. It's easy to say, well, put this behind you and continue on with your life. Again, like I said, I've never had, anyone or anything or any entity try to destroy me. Knock on wood.
Right. Right. I just.
I mean, I've employed a brilliant strategy all my life by never having anything to be taken or destroyed, but
Yeah.
I personally, it's my personal belief that they can't hurt her, or they would have.
And that's what I thought all along too.
Well, on the other hand, you don't have the money. They can just keep doing this to you whenever they want. So be ready for it. But I don't really think that they can do anything else other than what they've already done.
Yeah, I mean, I've wondered myself. Do they think that she's still?
Well, they're probably hoping she'll kill herself.
Somewhere.
They're probably hoping she'll commit suicide, or she'll do something,
Mm-hmm.
Or she'll just die. She'll have a heart attack or a stroke, or she'll slip into dementia or something. That's what they're hoping.
Yeah, I don't know.
They've stolen her technology, right? And they use it, and you can see it being used other places. They've found a way to make it so that it can be FDA approved by, because it didn't need FDA approval.
Right.
Dr. Carpenter didn't need to go through the FDA because she didn't use drugs.
Well, even before the raid and before the troll attacks started in 2009, there were a handful of articles that she used to include in info packets, even to send to prospective patients, talking about Rice, Stanford, and a handful of other universities that were already doing basically the same thing, using a drug instead of a dye that anybody can make out of what you can basically buy over the counter, right? And that dye being the key that gets the support of drug companies. Those are the people that do clinical trials. You don't do clinical trials without getting financing from a drug company. And what drug company is going to finance something that uses no drugs?
They won't. You're absolutely right, and it does now. If she was charging like $100,000 or something like that, they'd probably leave her alone. If she was charging hundreds of thousands of dollars and still sending people to chemotherapy.
I'll tell you something ironic. This attorney who's making several $100s an hour just to put me on the stand and get me worked up, he was grilling me over. Nolan, what exactly did you do for that $300 a week that you were making for Alien Dog Graphics? $300 a week, and he's grilling me over what all did I do to earn that $300 a week.
$300 a week is barely enough money to survive in the United
States.
States.
He's making that per hour.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
To destroy a beautiful human. To destroy a beautiful human. But I don't think they can destroy her, Randy. They've already done that, and I don't think they can do any more.
Well, and I don't know. It came up probably as related, but after the raid, we had two websites and a radio show. So anything that she had to say about that raid or about the FDA or anything like that went over to the medicalconspiracy.com website. Well, just because this is the way Dr. Carpenter wanted it. We didn't change anything on the main LazeMed website. We left it intact as it was the day of the raid. Up until a couple of weeks ago, when Dr. Carpenter decided, well, okay, we need to add an official statement somewhere on the website. So we did, basically just to remove all doubt that, hey, this website is up here for education and informational purposes to let people know what happened. But LazeMed as a company is no more. It ceased to be in the summer of 2012, and
when she moved, right?
Right, and I didn't really think that was necessary to have that in there, but the question came up. Why was the LazeMed Inc. phone number kept live for so long? And well, the answer was because for some people that was the way that former patients had to reach her to contact her. She wanted the line to be open so that, it was somebody that she's been in touch with for years and years. She doesn't suddenly drop off the map. She wanted to be available to talk to them if they needed to talk to her.
Right.
But
and is she able to talk to any of her old patients?
A few, but it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse lately, though, of course, because she just doesn't feel safe.
Right. And they won't subpoena any of them.
No, and
Well,
you know,
and here's
again,
the deal: they would, man. If
Again,
you two
no
were
irony.
the only, if you two were the only subpoenas, the only people witnesses subpoenaed to testify at this grand jury, it's nothing.
yeah, I mean, we. Shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. It's still kind of early for me, but
No, that's kind of early for everybody, dude.
the whole thing.
People on the West Coast are up here listening to us right now. They're up at 8 a.m. just to listen to you and I.
Really, you got people on the West Coast.
Yeah, we got people all over the world, actually, Randy. People in the Netherlands, people in Asia listening right now, people in Australia.
That was the thing that really, you know, made me want to see if I could get Dr. C to come on, because you were one of our friends on Orion, your crowd that you have listening to your show.
Malaysia, let's see.
Some of them already know who Dr. Carpenter is, so she thought this would be a good venue where she could sort of tell what's been going on lately.
Yeah, but we're still in a non-growth situation. If you're not one of the couple of the big ones that stick to the right wing, you know, narrative, then you're just doomed to mediocrity. But anyways, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh no!
Here you are trying to compliment me, and I'm trying to interrupt you. And
no. All I meant was there are people probably that followed you from Orion over here to UCY, and a lot of those people do remember that Dr. Carpenter had that
most of the
Saturday
people
show.
in our chat room right now are quite familiar with Dr. Carpenter.
And that's what I figured. It just and they questioned me about that, saying that you furthered the internet exposure. The website wasn't enough. Then you had to have a radio show to lure more people into her cancer cure scam. And at that point,
actually, you never
exactly
once
that
on
was
any
not
of your
the
shows.
point. That's what I told him. I said that was not the point of the radio show. The point of the radio show. You
never once mentioned. You never solicited anything on any of your radio shows or any of your guest appearances on my show.
Exactly. She never wanted a radio show until she started getting attacked by this organized group, and then that's when she decided, okay, I've got to talk about this.
Yeah. And
Sam Bushman over at Liberty News Radio, when they had that network, that was actually her first show, and she was on Liberty News Radio for, I want to say, about a year, and then Liberty went down, and somehow. Even though they had plenty of points on which they disagreed afterward, somehow at that point I was able to arrange a conference call with her and Dr. Rebecca Carley, and they hit it off the first time really well. And Dr. Carley got Dr. Carpenter in touch with Jimmy, and the next thing you know, Dr. Carpenter had her own show. Then weeks later, the Carley Carpenter differences started coming out, and she wasn't really a friend of ours, but I still thank Dr. Carley to this day for getting that exposure for us.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we agreed on everything, and Dr. Carpenter didn't agree with everything Carley said, and vice versa. But still, I saw it as it's a bigger common enemy.
Yeah,
it's more important than being exactly like everyone else, and you all thinking exactly the same way.
But there was never any animosity. I don't know. Quite frankly, I've only listened to Dr. Carley's show a few times. Well, we used to have her.
Yeah.
I mean, she was at Orion.
And the thing about it, the one thing I see about the two that have in common, they both have something very much in common. They both stick to their guns.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with what they've each gone through. Dr. Carley's been through some horrific stuff.
Exactly. That's the first thing. And the gang stalking is the part that does it for me. That's how I know that there's no indictment. They can't. Same thing with Bruce Ivins. They say that he killed himself on the day that his indictment was about to be handed down, but that's a freaking lie. There was no indictment. They drove that guy crazy. They made him think he was hearing voices until he killed himself. And then, just like with Aaron Schwartz, You know, they have absolutely no case, but so they tried this one last ace in the hole. Yeah, you know, they gang stalk him, and then all of a sudden, because now you feel like you're being followed, that your phone calls are being tapped, that there's people watching you 24/7, and now you're hearing voices, and now things are happening that are strange and odd, so you commit suicide. And then the day after Dr. Carly or Dr. Carpenter commits suicide, they'll come out and say, oh, look, just the day before we were about to hand down an indictment on her, she kills herself. It's classic. It's classic. And and what I want from my heart and my soul is to say, don't. That you've gone through so much in your life already that they can't do anything else to you. This is their last. This is all they got left, other than shy of. If she were to just start helping people again, shy of just having her assassinated.
Yeah, I mean, the only explanations that make sense to me are explanations that to a lot of people sound just outrageous because, it's putting an end to a threat to the pharmaceutical industry. You know, that sounds kind of, delusional, maybe. But, I'm sure that somewhere in some report somewhere about the incidents years and years ago when she blew the whistle, somewhere there's a paragraph that exonerates the whistle that was blown because, look, this lady's a kook. Now, 20 years later, look, man, she may think there's no connection. I do. I know they never, even if they had to wait a generation and nail her children for revenge, they would. So, and this is their last hurrah. There's nothing else they can do to her. My opinion. I mean, I don't want, but, I just feel like, I've had enough experience and enough dealings with the system to know that they mostly do. They don't do courtesies like, hey, you're about to be indicted. They indict you. If you're, I guess if you're a big enough criminal, they're not gonna hammer your children. I mean, look at the Bush children. I mean,
but they've already sold their soul to the system. You know what I mean? They're one of the star children. They're part of the bloodline.
One of the 1,000 points of light.
Well, look, take solace in the fact that they can't. They would, if they could have charged her, they'd have done that. She'd be in jail right now. She would have already been into a criminal trial, and there are still limits to the amount of time that can go by after this grand jury. If there's no indictment handed down, then I'd be fairly confident saying that. I mean, and here's the deal, though. Confident in saying that if she never purchased another laser and started curing people's cancer again, she'll be left alone.
Right.
So they've essentially taken her out of business, regardless.
Yeah. And I kept thinking during the questioning that what they were trying to establish somehow is that I continued to work on this website and upgrade it and add material to it and everything, knowing that this was a fraud. They kept throwing that and trying to establish that I did something knowingly fraudulent. And I just kept on saying that's not the case at all.
Like an organized crime syndicate.
Yeah, the only reason. I mean, sure, the reason it started is because at the time I needed a job and she needed help, but the things that I was hearing coming from all over the world, that was my. I mean, sure, I was making a little bit of money to supplement with the bills and help us out, but what really kept it going was knowing the difference that it was in my face every other day with a new email from somebody. What a difference she was making in people's lives, and that is what kept me going. And they want to try to establish that that I knew of horrible things that were going on, and I still continued to promote this company and promote this website, and trying to put words in my mouth, trying to put thoughts in my head, basically.
But you stuck to your guns.
Right.
So what kind of, did they ask your wife the same questions?
Yeah, from what I understand, yeah, they did. But they asked her some things that they didn't ask me because she was the office manager. So I believe they brought things and put them into her face, as in, you know, real names of real patients and things that she wasn't aware that happened afterward. That are you aware that this person is no longer alive? You know, and things like that. And just basically, I don't know if they were fishing for a reaction or what. You know, but because this is what she told me after the fact, that they were throwing pictures of former patients up in her face and asking her if she was aware of this, if she was aware of that, and the only thing that I knew was when she walked out of that jury room, she was reduced to, you know, bawling massive tears. She had, you know, her face was totally covered in tears.
Yeah. I know. I understand, and that's what their objective was, because they can't get you. They can't get Dr. Carpenter. They can't get Wendy. They can't get Randy. But they can piss you off, and they can scare you, and they can hurt you. And so they've done that. But that's it.
And they even found paragraphs in the website that they had this thing. Well, I'm sure you've heard of it, the Wayback Machine.
Say that
again. It's a website where you can go find changes that were made to websites, the version of a website from
cached,
right, from years ago, and then basically they found a paragraph where it talked about no side effects have ever been experienced by anyone having this treatment, and they found 2 or 3 different incarnations of that paragraph where it had been reworded one way, reworded a different way, and you know what they didn't understand was every different version of that paragraph was as Dr. Carpenter worded it. I mean, sure, she was aware when people would object to the way something was worded on the website. I mean,
she would try to correct it.
Try to change it so that still says the same thing, but it doesn't sound objectionable or anything like that. And I would upload the changes exactly as she wanted them, and they tried to make it out to where I slipped something in to make this paragraph legal, you know, or something. No, I wasn't. I was sure these paragraphs on the website. They
can say whatever they want, but they couldn't prove it, so they wouldn't be able to prove that.
But, I mean, the website says what the owner of the website wants it to say.
Right.
That's the bottom line. I'm not the owner of the website. I worked on it. I was the mechanic. I was the guy out there tightening the bolts and maybe changing this and putting a new gasket on it here, and, you know, that's what I did.
Yeah, so this is it, dude. This was, So Dr. Carpenter didn't get subpoenaed. No one else was subpoenaed. Just you guys. Just her daughter and her daughter's husband.
Right. And talking about it, we think, well, maybe the reason that she didn't get subpoenaed is because at that time they didn't know where, you know, to serve her.
That's possible, but no, trust me, brother. Trust me. There's no way to be anonymous anymore, dude. Unless you are living in a bunker underground and not a single soul knows where it is, and you have absolutely no electronic gizmos anywhere, they know where you are,
right?
Or they can find out.
Well, it's just like what
they really wanted was for you to break down crying, saying, "God, I knew that we were killing people."
Oh, Jesus!
That's what they wanted, dude. This was their last chance at trying to get you to incriminate yourself or her. And then, as though you were some sort of an organized crime syndicate whose only goal was to make money through crime. But no crimes have been committed.
No, they had to make up crimes. They had to make up crimes to get. Yeah,
but they can make them up all they want, but unless they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt, in front of a jury of your peers, there is no crime. Unless they do what they did to Bruce Ivins or to Aaron Schwartz, unless they make you think that you're going crazy unless they gang stalk you. And then once you're done, once you're gone, they can say anything because now there is no burden of proof. Same thing with Michael Dorner. As far as, there's absolutely no proof that he killed anyone. They don't have to prove it because they're not in court anymore. They just say he killed these people. They call him, a radical terrorist, an American terrorist, because they don't have to prove that he was one. He died. Same thing with Bruce Ivins. They don't have to prove that he stole anthrax and mailed it to, the most stupidest, ludicrous, off-the-wall claims that they've made against him. They're true now because he killed himself. Aaron Schwartz. It's true. He stole, he was stealing. He had the intent because he killed himself, and there is no burden of proof. So whatever they say, whatever goes out on the media is fact. And that's what they're trying to do here. So if Dr. Carpenter is out of the way, if she goes nuts, if she takes, sleeping pills and decides it's just been too much for her, then they don't have any burden of proof. They just say, see, then they can just post an article or something. It'll go mainstream that says, this woman who was doing this and doing that, committed suicide, and that's that. They don't have to prove that any word that they said was true. They'll just say it. They do it all the time. It's part of the.
Talking
to Barbara Hartwell, she should absolutely know this.
Yeah, personally, knowing how strong-willed she is, I can't imagine her doing anything like that.
Exactly. So that's it. This was their last hurrah.
I guess so. But,
I'm telling you, dude, it works more times than it doesn't. You look at all the people that killed themselves, and then the next day we find out that there was an indictment that was about to be handed down. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's par for the course. There was no indictment. She killed herself, and then they can say, well, there was an indictment. We were about to indict her. And then everything they say about the indictment with no burden of proof, with no due process, becomes true.
And really, even short of doing that, silencing the people is job one.
Right now, at this point, while she's alive, they're liable for slander if they, you know what I'm saying? If people continue to slander her name. So that's why, the gang stalking, that's why all this goes on. You look at for Christ's sakes, look at Randy Quaid. If a Jew steals your money and you're hip to it and you go back and you go after him, they destroy your life and your family's life and your career. And they'll have you whacked.
Man.
It happens. People might think it don't, but it does. Right.
Well, I know some things that I didn't think were possible 5 years ago. I definitely have changed my
well, I happen to know that you,
outlook.
Randy, are totally familiar with the satanic rituals and blood rituals and child sacrifices that go on amongst the elites. People think, well, that's crazy. That doesn't happen. Oh, frick, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And if you get in their way, that's why I say, that people think, well, they would, they have no problem killing a school full of children. They have no problem blowing up a hospital full of cancer patients or, amputees or, look at Gaza. Are we even talking about Gaza now anymore here in the United States? No, we're talking about Missouri, about, this poor kid who was gunned down by the police, by the racist white police in the black community. Again, it's all smoke and mirrors, dude.
Flavor of the day.
Yeah. And then in the background, real good people are going down. So let's just make sure that Dr. Carpenter isn't one of them.
Amen. Like I said, we don't want, nobody wants, nobody's trying to get her back in operation with a clinic or anything. We just, wanted to be left alone.
At this point, I think you're on the verge of being left alone. That's my opinion, Randy. I don't want to give false hope, but
Life is already hard enough without this.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You guys have endured and persevered, and I feel like if she just endeavors just for a little bit longer to be strong and And I mean, it's obvious that that she'll never be able to have a clinic. I mean, it's obvious that that they've destroyed her professionally.
Yeah, and if she had made the money, if she had made the kind of money that people,
she'd have been able to defend herself.
If yes, she would have been able to do that. But if she had made that kind of money that people are trying to imply, she would have been able to afford to transplant to Virgin Islands, Bahamas, or there's lots of different places she could have gone if she was making that kind of money. Even Mexico,
Yeah.
But
well, she went to Oklahoma because she wanted to continue her practice, not because she was trying to hide or.
Right, because of the safe harbor law.
Yeah.
And she knew just from checking places on the internet that there were alternative clinics in the area. Just less than a year after FDA raided BlazeMed, another Tulsa alternative clinic got raided and shut down. A place called the Camelot Cancer Center. They got raided for using Laetrile. And they had other things that they did too, but what they used to shut them down was the fact that they were using Laetrile,
which is a drug.
Laetrile. It's a drug. It's made from. You've heard of apricot pit therapy? People taking apricot pits ground up.
I've heard of grapeseed ground up.
Well, Laetrile is. Sometimes it's called B17, I believe.
Okay, I actually have heard of B17.
And it's also it's from an extract that comes from the apricot root, the apricot pit, I believe.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, while BlazeMed was going on, one of the stories that I had read about 5 or 6 years ago was a guy who was arrested because he was selling apricot pits on the internet. Just taking the pits, packaging them up, weighing them, so many ounces of apricot pits, sell them through the internet. They got him. They put him in jail.
Wow.
But anyway, the Camelot got shut down in the same year.
So they've effectively shut down all the alternative around there in Oklahoma. So really, if you get cancer, it's radiation or nothing.
Pretty much, I think.
Unless you can get some cannabis oil.
Yeah, I think the word cancer. I think the word cancer has a copyright that's owned by certain money interests in the country.
Yeah, you would be wise to find alternatives to using the C word.
Yeah, because. I think something about the American Cancer Society and their charter. It's written that the day that a cure is discovered, they go out of existence, basically.
Of course, trillions of dollars. I mean, they make billions of dollars a year.
And cancer has to be preserved. I mean,
of course, you have to walk for cancer. You've got to raise billions of dollars to keep that shit alive. When really. Dr. Carpenter, even Dr. Brzezinski, Ricky Simpson, all these people out there that are showing you that no, you don't need millions of dollars to be healthy, to stay well. We have that fundamental right. I talk about the struggle for dignity. That's part of it right there. The dignity of being able to grow old without having your hair fall out or having your pancreas removed or having your goddamn liver taken out. Your whole fucking life destroyed.
Limping
That's our
around
struggle.
with an IV pole and an open back gown on.
Yeah. I mean, every person I've ever loved in my life has died from cancer. And I'm not waiting for permission. If they'll take my help, I'll give it to them. And I'll go to jail with a smile on my face. And the medical establishment, the authorities, the Leos, all of them can kiss my ass. And, anyways, we're near the end of the show.
I really wish we could have had Dr. C here with us, but really, I do.
We'll do something.
I think if it's not later today, sometime later in the week, if we can get together and have a have a conference call or something and record it, you can do a replay.
Okay. I'll put something together. So, what else is going on in Randy's life professionally? Anything?
Not really.
I mean, I know they've destroyed any chance of you guys. I mean,
well, like I said, I'm just
working, trying to make it.
I'm working in a 21st century sweatshop, basically. The call center is the new sweatshop of the 21st century, I believe. I'm not going to mention the name of the company, but
yeah, because
it's not as bad. Honestly, it's not as bad as the job I came out of a few months ago. I'm not working for them anymore, so I can say it. I was working for AT&T, the biggest AT&T Mobility, the biggest of the cell phone companies, and that was a tough job, a really tough job. But
I have a dear friend. She's the web mistress of my website, and Jack Bloods works at a call center. She freaking hates it.
Oh yeah, because every second of the day is being monitored by some piece of software.
And you got dicks like me that call up and think you're the problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This one is a little better of a job. I'm actually selling to business customers. I'm taking calls from business customers and taking orders. So it's not. I'm not dealing with end users, which is with AT&T. That was the biggest problem because.
And here's the deal, man. Is and Richard Stallman agrees. The end user is handcuffed and shackled by their software.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Anytime you buy anything that runs on Windows or anything like that, it comes with handcuffs and shackles. It's not, and that's why I use Linux whenever I can.
And a special little info portal for the NSA built in.
Yeah, in all of the software. Well, and they always have end user agreements. The only end user agreement there should be is you paid for this. You can do whatever you want with it, but you can alter it and change it and resell it even if you want to. That's the idea behind free software. That's the idea behind Richard Stallman and Aaron Schwartz, and that's why these people are heroes, real, true heroes, not AK-47, M16, shoot-em-up heroes. These guys are true heroes of the information age. And, man, hey, thanks for coming on with me today, Randy.
Oh man, anytime. I'm happy to. Like I said, I feel a little out of my element without Dr. Carpenter here.
That's all right.
You know, usually I'm used to everything I say. She's going to say something back, but
yeah. Well,
we'll
do something. We'll pre-record something for next week or the week after. How's that?
All right. I'm really amazed you don't your format over here. We haven't had any commercial breaks.
No, we don't run commercials.
Wow.
We're not trying to sell dick pills or squatty potties.
Oh, man. Well, I love you, man. And it's good to see Vince out there and Road Dogg and some other names I recognize from
you'll remember a lot of these guys from back.
Yeah, we're still around. It's just life is a little different right now. Quite a bit different.
All right, well, Randy, it's been a pleasure. I want you to give your hug a wife and Dr. Carpenter and tell her I love her, and I'll try to get her on the show. All right, this has been Against the Wall. Thank you, Randy Simmons.
Hey, thank you, JJ. Thank you, UCY.
Absolutely. Up next, Drew Shalling, the Shylack. This is Against the Wall at UCY.TV.
All right, don't let them bully them thinking you're boss and you don't have to care. They can call it whatever they want, but they can't make a thing.
I'd rather die than be a slave to thee.